Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is June 27, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure today to be here with Ruth Goodman. Ruth, where are you calling in from?
I'm from Venice. I'm a neighbor of yours.
I love it. Venice, California. The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
uh, I'm a human being, and the thing that makes me the happiness is celebrating with people that I love, and celebrating with music and dance and good food and enjoyment of each other and conversation, having it be a um, a spontaneous and alive happening.
I love that. I agree with you 100%. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
It's interesting. I just went to see last weekend on Friday and Saturday. I went to see two flamenco dance performances, and I will tell you, I was with my jaw on the floor. What I watched was, the flamenco dance form comes from the gypsies, and the gypsies were maligned beings. They traveled from Rajasthan all the way up to Ireland and across to Virginia, and everywhere they went, they were people who nobody wanted to talk to. And what they did was they danced and they sang and they played guitar and they told stories, and they affirmed themselves with their dance and their music. And there was such I am here, in everything they do. Espresso. And, I really felt there's no way to look at what they are doing and not be envious of
Yeah.
who they are. I I said next lifetime I want to be born in a family that will teach me how to affirm my existence that much.
That is a well put and articulate. Thank you so much. I agree with you 100%. Affirmation. And so, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
I couldn't hear your question. You went out.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Um, they want to be right.
Yeah. To be right. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Well, I think that as we lose our connection to our quantum state and our embodied intelligence, as we have been trained more and more to think about things, we lose more and more of our capacity to be tuned into the knowledge that's in our genes, in our cells, that's in the cosmos, that's downloading to us. All we have to do is ask a question, and information or the knowledge that we'll need in the moment will actually help us to see the world and understand how to make what we need happen. But we have been removed from that, and because of that we feel insecure. And so we have books, and we have to write things down, and we have to memorize, and then we have all of this information accumulated because we're insecure, because we have actually left the center of our own being.
Yeah, like be here now, live here in the moment.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, do thoughts create emotions?
Well, what goes on is that uh, I think it's not just thoughts. It's that thoughts are ways of constructing stories,
Yeah.
and the stories that we tell actually create a construct of the energy body that we have, that become emotions. Because we have a freely flowing energy system, and some of the stories we tell are expansive, and our energy is full and beautiful, and some of these stories we tell are infected with self-negation, and they're disconnected, and they come from a pain of something that has happened, a trauma that's happened, and the story that's told creates a very, very corrupted uh, uh, energy form that we feel as an emotion that um, is the symptom of an energy that's not free.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the story that comes from, but it's held in the story. It's not held in the emotion. It's not held in the body. It's held in the story that's held in our brain in a trauma loop that has to do with our need to protect ourselves in some way, because we become afraid and we've become victims in that particular story.
Yeah.
And even when we're doing things like being greedy, or it all comes from a negative vortex of not having enough and feeling like you're not enough, so that it comes from some place of being small and victimized, even when you're the great army general killing everybody. It's like, why are you doing this? Why do
Exactly.
you
Lighten up. Don't kill people. Be your, well, Ruth, this is a pleasure. You're really getting what I'm after. And this next thing is
what are
filling
you
the
after?
uh learning. I'm learning a lot. Believe me. You're concise and you're articulate. And I appreciate this, because the next one is a fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
um, Say it out loud, speak it to somebody else, dance it, sing it, manifest it,
yeah.
manifest it in the physical universe.
Yeah, you covered the waterfront. I got it. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. But there's a cliche that you really brought up and flipped it into an archetype. If you can't say it, sing it. If you can't sing it, dance it.
You have to manifest it in the physical universe. I'm a somewhat of a channel. I do healing work, and what is really interesting is that I get downloads about the people that I'm working on, or sometimes even when I'm just talking to somebody, there's a download happens, but I don't know what that download is until I start to speak it, and I
Yeah.
myself am receiving, I'm decoding it as I'm
Yeah.
talking it, because the universe is actually downloaded, and I can feel it in me. It becomes this template of certain, like, little feelings in my body, and then I have to start talking, and as I am saying each word, I'm going, oh, that's what that was about.
Yeah. That's awareness level. You have a high awareness level. Now, Chomsky says a language is, oh, no, wait, I skipped one. Can humans think without language?
That's a good question. I really think that language and thinking are are very, very united. But I think you can direct attention to different places and know things about your world that bypasses language. You can know
Yeah.
whether this is a good thing for me or a bad thing for me, or this is something I want to explore and enter into or leave. I think your attention can be directed into the world very, very precisely without language.
Yeah.
But I do think that our thinking is very connected to our language process.
Yeah. Because Chomsky says the language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Um, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, and we have a big disagreement, and I'm with somebody who is very reactive, and I realize that there's nothing I can say that can is going to get through. I kind of just back up. I open up my aperture and
Yeah.
look at them from another point of view, and kind of let go of trying to inform them of what I want to say, and just kind of reassess the present moment and decide to be present to them in another way.
Yeah.
And so, because I don't like war, and I
Yeah.
don't like it when, everything is duality, everything is like spinning and is, two things. But if you're going to make war about duality, I don't want to, do that. And I think that my stance is to back off and find the larger picture in which the dualities can be in a relationship instead of into a conflict. And so I might just be observing who they are as a human being and who I am as a human being and what's going on in the present moment. So I'll change my perspective and change um, what 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 I'm doing in that moment, because I know that I can't win. I can't win
Yeah.
when I'm in that kind of thing. Nobody ever wins. Nobody ever wins.
Yeah. Well, Ruth, you're a wordsmith indeed. I love open your aperture, re-look, re-access. But I have to tell you, you probably will love this. One of my favorite answers was, "What do you do when, um, you know, uh, language doesn't work?" And the person said, "Group hug." I knew you'd love that. It's such a great line.
Yeah.
Okay, your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Oh, I think these days we are so abstracted out of our bodies and our feelings, and we're sick because of it. I think that when we put thinking on the throne, which we have been taught to, it's been pounded into us to abandon our body, abandon our feelings, and to just think and read books, and to define the world through our concepts and through our thinking and through our media and through our phones and through our, all this stuff. This is all the level of abstraction and concept. And I think that we're absolutely infirm from this imbalance. And
Yeah.
but what I think is true is, like, when we are really healthy, the heart is given the throne,
Yeah.
not the intellect. And that, we are in our feeling bodies. I think what I've seen of indigenous cultures and people that are very close to land, and grow food and live in small communities, and there's a harmony that's there, and an awareness physically of the connection to nature, and a sense feeling of being a part of something, and knowing things vibrationally about plants, about the weather, about animals, about who their community. They know things through the vibrational field that they're in, because they're connected to their feeling. I feel like we have been shattered from that kind of knowledge, and it seems like, because we've been so shattered from ourselves, all we want to ever do when we see that harmony is kill it.
Yeah. So well put. These are two questions from Alan Turing in the 1950s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
That's a great question. Wow. 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 Is thinking a function of the soul? You know, I feel like there are different pathways for different people. And I really feel that there are people that get to acknowledge of the soul through their thinking, because they need to discern. They so construct the world through thinking that what they're doing is they're actually um, really assessing their thought process to be able to come to the unified field of the soul, but they do it through thinking. And there's a way that they function with it that's very different from me. And I believe some of the more masculine meditative processes actually are trying to dominate, thinking, because thinking can be get in the way of a relationship with the soul, but that the process of some people, in order to know the soul, they have to have a thought process be part of it. They cannot grasp it any other way. And I know that I'm a heart-based person, and I feel like it's really easy for me to access soul. And it's like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? This is who I am. I feel like it's right there. And I feel like it's a more feminine based way of knowing soul, in that it's about the relationship that I feel with whatever is in my present moment. So there's a relational spirituality and a relational apprehending of what soul is to me, because my sense of soul is actually constantly being reflected.
Yeah. It's
It's like,
nurturing. What I understood you saying there is nurturing. So the second Turing question is, can machines think?
sure, they can think. Thinking is a very, very low level process. Try loving.
There you go. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I think I go for meaning, but anytime an opportunity to celebrate is around, I jump in.
Yeah.
And I feel like I need other people to really be happy.
Yeah.
And I actually find that these days that I haven't, there's a poverty of a certain kind of celebratory um, experience with people, a way of being together.
Yeah.
And it's so rare, and I'm so available to it, and I love it. But sometimes that celebration is is it's not removed from meaning,
Yeah.
because it's a way of enjoying what humans create together. It's a
Yeah.
way of being with each other, and just allowing a freedom and uh, um, a play to happen. And
So
it's
many words. Yeah. So many words you evoke, resonate with me. Play, sort of finding a commonality and connecting. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Is like consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so creating it or more so detecting it?
well, I believe that consciousness is everywhere, and I am a very refined system that's part of the ocean of consciousness, and I have an ocean that's part of that consciousness. um, it's an enclosed, encapsulated, unique resonance of that consciousness that has the capacity to um, download the vast consciousness, and also be in relationship, active relationship with it, so that um, I feel like I am either directing consciousness with my particular zeitgeist, worldview, value system, sense of meaning, or I am, uh, just being quiet and asking for guidance, and asking to receive an understanding when I'm at a place where the path is unformed in front of me, and I really need guidance. I empty myself and I wait.
Yeah.
And
Wait. Yeah.
and it's interesting because things drop in. It's
Yeah.
all right there if you listen. It's
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. You're present. You're willing to be open. So when it happens, you're there. But is what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Um, I think thought goes beyond time and space.
Yeah.
I think that, well, it's attention. I don't want to say thought. Our attention, which can
Okay.
be activated through thought,
Yeah.
um, our attention goes beyond time and space, and there is no time and space in our attention. There's no time and space in love, so that it can
Yeah.
go instantaneously anywhere in the
Yeah.
universe that it's directed. Wherever our imagination wants to go, it's there. Bingo. There's no time in between.
I
But
I so
I don't know about thought. I think thought is a much more um, linear process that lives in time and space.
yeah. Well, you really get, Ruth. It's really me and you versus the wording on the question. So if I word a certain way and you go, I want to change the word thought to attention, that's what I'm after, is us sussing out, then using the wordings as a prompt to open up. So there's a poet, Audre Lorde, that said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded, said you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
I don't understand that question at all.
Yeah, well, that's good you asked, because it goes like this. I open some of the questions with a quote, and it doesn't mean that you have to apply the quote. You put all the questions into the context you want. So when Andre Lorde said this, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. We don't know if she was talking about white supremacy or the mind itself, the human's consciousness, their thoughts, their feelings, or something else. She's a poet and she's talking metaphorically. What is the master and how can we dismantle their house, or do we even want to? And then Yvonne Rainer, who's a dancer and a peer of hers, said, well, you can dismantle the master's house if you expose the tools. So, you use the tools of talk therapy, you use the tools of dance. So then I ask, what new tool do you suggest? It's basically, you don't have to apply the word new. You can just say, think of it as, what tool do you gravitate towards?
Hmm. you know, I'm a real believer in, it's not just belief. I know that the illusion of otherness is
Yeah,
one of the things that I enjoy, that there's this whole universe that is just sublime, and I celebrate all the detail and all the otherness of it. And I also know that the um, sweetness comes from really being in contact with the oneness that
yeah,
is underlying all of it. And I feel as though, in some ways, this is the truth, but it is a very powerful position, and in some ways, it has the power to dismantle negativity
yeah,
in other people when I know this and hold it in my field, so that I can see their otherness and I can also see my oneness with them. So what happens is that, even if they're projecting something negative towards me, I I have the understanding that that's a place in themselves that they're not loving.
yeah,
and,
exactly.
and if I understand that, and I actually, in my capacity to hold that for myself, I'm not going to say I'm going to heal you, but I'm just going to hold this place of myself, and in resonance, just know that that's medicine for them if they want it.
Yeah,
It's if they want it. I'm not going to try to give it to them. But
Got
but
it.
but I know that that's a medicine, but it also is my sword and my shield,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I am not falling for their negation of me, uh, and letting it negate me, because I've been able to hold the space for myself, and remember myself in love, and remember myself in oneness, and
Yeah.
them too, so
So well put. I agree with you, Ruth. And what new toy do you suggest?
for me,
Yeah.
I don't know that I need new toys. I need um, new conversations, new people. I need new mountains to climb, and I need new stories to write, and I need my imagination to be cultivated more. I want more imagination. I want to be able to open my eyes and not see the world and not think the same thoughts. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, so that I'm actually looking around and seeing new things. And I don't do this all the time, but I do it. All of a sudden, I'll be driving in my car, and I realize I've driven this many times, and every time I do it, I see the same thing. And all of a sudden, I'm opening myself up to. I never saw that. I never saw. Ooh. So it's this realization of like allowing myself to be more fluid in my consciousness, and be delighted in different things, because I've stopped being automatic, and I'm more awake. So I don't need more toys. I need more awake. And I love to sit at the piano, and just I don't play the piano, and but I play the piano, and I just sit down and I just listen to the notes,
Yeah.
and
Good.
I hear the tones, and things come out, and something starts happening, and finding my way with this is just like, I can't believe how much delight I have in this. And I then sometimes start singing with it, and um it's just it's the simplest thing. I mean, I'm not a great singer or a great musician, but it makes me so happy to do this. And
You
it's
know the healing power of music. We don't have to be you don't have to know notes and all that. I think playing music is therapy, and it's a celebration of the human spirit, but it's also the word play. You don't work music, you play music.
I
But
know
what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
that I'm not going to get to sleep.
Oh,
I have insomnia sometimes. I did better than I have been. I mean, there have been times when I say 5 nights in a row I'm not sleeping, and I feel very raggedy, and I really don't like myself when that happens.
yeah.
And so uh, what I've learned to do is get myself ready for bed, and I might hang out on the computer, and for doing something. And it's the moment that I get tired, I go to bed, immediately, and I'm able to slip under. And I also have been taking I went through a long period of being in resentment to my vitamins. I get so angry that I have to take vitamins. It's like, I don't want to take these things. And yet they really help, taking magnesium, taking HTP, taking Mag 10, taking GABA, taking it's like, it really, but the thing that I've done recently, this is funny. I'm always so careful about what I eat, and not to have too much sugar. And so, if I get a nice juice, I put, you know, uh, 1/10 is juice and the rest is water. And what I've learned is, like, if I drink the juice straight and it's lots of sugar, I can take my pills drinking.
Nice. I like
So
that.
myself a nice big glass of gorgeous juice. I don't dilute it, and it's really delicious. And I'm eating my pills and taking my juice, and I'm able to do it when I'm drinking my juice. So
That's
it's been help.
beautiful. The ability to change from routine. Well, McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Ruth, I asked you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
I think it's because the people that have a lot of power are master magicians, and
Yeah,
people that don't have access to their own creative process are extremely vulnerable to be hypnotized and brainwashed. And
yes,
so easy, it's so easy. If you don't have that spark inside of you, it's so easy to be seduced into becoming an automaton.
yeah.
And I'm seeing an epidemic going on, and it's I just pray that people wake up somehow.
Wake up. And do artists have moral obligation?
You know, I don't know what that means. I really don't. I feel like the because when you become outer directed, moral obligation to others, you become a do-gooder, and you become, I recently have wondered about, um, um, my liberalness. I've begun to really question it, because I don't think the attitude of me being superior to other people and knowing what's good for other people is actually helpful to other people.
Yeah,
I think that that I have to really work on myself, and in doing that, if the generosity of me comes, and that generosity is able to affect other people, then there's a freedom there in what's going on, because I feel like the structure of moral obligation, people's moral obligation to make people, Indians Christian. It's like, who knows what somebody else's
oh
food
yeah,
is going to be, and what
yeah,
they need for their soul.
oh
And
yeah.
the only thing I think for me, it has to come out of the generosity that emits out of me, because I have truly given what's the nutrition, both spiritually, mentally, and physically, to myself, that allows me to be generous.
It's really good. I'm right with you on that one completely. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I think real ideas, true ideas, live in the past and in the future.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of new ideas that are just aberrations, and uh, they're, like this new marketing technique, this new, it's all about creating something new. It has a lot to do with buying and selling, and making war, or making product, and I think
Wow.
a lot of this stuff is really not what makes people happy. It's not the
Yeah.
truth. It's not going to really nourish them. It's a distraction. So I
We,
feel like, but that's not to say that some of the really great ideas live in the present moment and are as true now as they were at the beginning of time.
Ruth, you're a comprehensive thinker. I love what you're doing. You're getting the big picture. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
One of my earliest memories was being in a bassinet with my sister, who was 2 years younger than me, and we were in an apartment in New York City. And my parents were in the room, and we were in the water. We were in the water, having a little bath and playing together. I was 2 years older than her. And my parents were talking, and my sister and I were babbling together, totally understanding exactly what we were saying to each other. And I realized that my parents did not realize that we understood everything.
Each other. Oh my God, that's beautiful.
We understood each other and we understood them. And because we didn't have language that they could understand, they assumed that we didn't understand them. And
Oh my.
I remember going, they think we don't understand them, but we understand them.
I really visualize that. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, I feel like I don't have very good memory these days. Uh, uh, and I think memory is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it should dominate you, but I feel like there's, like, what I know about learning is that, when I get one piece of information, it hardly sticks. I get a piece of information and another piece of information. It's like I get then I get a piece of information and I get like five different pieces of information related to that first piece of information, and it begins to have a different kind of meaning, and it begins to stick in me as something that has meaning for me. And um, what I realize is that the context of things really is important for how it is that I derive um, meaning from my experiences. And when I'm able to remember that this happened here, this happened here, this happened, it begins to I begin to see patterns in me that
No.
that help me understand something profound about myself. And if I don't have those memories, because it doesn't make that insight happen. And it's very interesting because sometimes people will remember things about me that or something that I did or something that I said, and they'll feed it back to me, and it was like, oh my God, all of a sudden there's like a cascade of understanding that, oh, I understood that way back then, and I did da 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 da, but I didn't remember it.
Yeah,
So I feel like memory is a gift, and a good
it
memory
is.
is a gift because it creates the history of yourself, creates a
Yeah.
context um, that is able to really thread the pearls of meaning in your life. And if you don't have memory, you can't do that as well. So, but I don't think memory should dominate. But
Yeah.
I think really good memory just lives there. It's in all the neurology and all the cells, and it's just like this library that's there, and it probably goes to past lives and probably into the future. But
Yeah.
if it's accessible to you, that it helps to give meaning and purpose to your present moment.
Beautiful words, Ruth, and it remind me like what you're doing is you get a comprehensive awareness by understanding pattern recognition. You understood those patterns so well, and this is about tell me someone within your immediate family, just briefly, and then outside your immediate family who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
Ah, it's really interesting. Um, my family didn't know how to really be in relationship with me, and I felt like my childhood and my early years were um, very confused and fragmented, and I couldn't say that I had a role model of anybody. I was kind of left hanging out there, flapping in the wind, and very confused. I think that you know being with my husband has been an amazing process because he's very different from me. I am have lots of planets in Aquarius. He's got lots of planets in Virgo, and I had a real absence of a certain kind of grounding in my life. I had all this capacity. You can see my intellect can go, travel here, there, and everywhere. My intellect and my sense of concept and theory and all this stuff, but I was completely out of my body. And not that Dean was so in his body, but he's very, his idea of a good day is a list of things that he has to do and take care of. And that was so opposite from me, because I would be in the realm of thought and and spirituality and art and creativity, but I didn't have that. So anyway, I feel like I've been with Dean, and Dean has taught me to enjoy that list of things and get them done.
Yeah.
Taught to like little things, to not have to have these big abstractions, to be very happy with making my bed, washing the dishes, taking care of the little things that are so important. And I have a love of doing them, and I feel like he he held it. It was like not something he taught me. He is that, and I live with him, and it's like rubbed off on me, and it's such a blessing for me to have had that help, for me to have received that other aspect of just something that is, it's just an everyday kind of consciousness.
Well, it's
Yeah.
so well articulated. How many years have you been together?
uh it's 43 years that we've been married, and then there's a couple of years before that we kind of did a little funny dance together. And
That is, that is, I really look up to you guys. You are an amazing couple. Um, were you raised a particular religion?
yeah, communism.
Do you pray?
You know, the prayer, I think I'm in always in a um an awareness of my consciousness. I'm not a religious person. I have a ever present sense of the magic and mystery and awe of creation.
Yeah,
I feel it as an ongoing presence that I am in relationship to, and I don't lose that connection. And um, there are times when I use um, when something is out of balance. Like, for example, a friend of mine, her daughter was very sick, and she had a lupus, and it was like it was in her kidneys, and she was very sick. And I really was holding a visualization of the family being very grateful and happy because she was getting better. And I know that I can influence the creation of the universe, as can other people, by seeing a particular um, possibility unfold. That it does influence how creation unfolds. And so I will do things like that if I feel that there's if I feel like my energy can help.
yeah. It's
And yeah, so like I don't know if it's prayer,
right.
but I feel like I'm in a, like when I'm dancing, I'm in a prayer to creation. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm when I'm playing the piano, I feel like it's a prayer um, to the unfolding possibility of me in
yeah,
life. And um, uh, I feel like, I think I don't think of prayer as a separate thing. I mean, there are
no,
times when I'm cooking and I'm cutting open a red onion, and I'm looking at that red onion, and I'm just like in stunned at just how beautiful it is. And I feel like it's a moment of awe and a moment of just an appreciation of creation. Or cutting open a carrot, it's like there's just so much beauty. And I think any time that I I have that moment of just recognition, it's a kind of prayerfulness
Yeah.
that feels very, very simple and
Yeah.
very real, and I'm very grateful for that simplicity. And sometimes I'll look at somebody's face and I'll just see the details of their face and just realize how amazing it is that this individual is this individual. And
Yeah.
it's like I'll be so grateful that they're there, that they are who they are. That's it. It's just like
It feels like, Ruth, what you're describing to me is called conscious breathing. It's almost like just, again, be here now, like Ram Dass. But if God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
oh God. It's interesting. I don't see God like that. I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
I see me being an aspect of God.
Yeah. Good. That's it. That's what it is.
I know, and I see myself. Um, it's like wherever my consciousness is where I am, and it's what my experience of the afterlife is going to be. And
Yeah.
it's me. It's me having the journey that is unfolding because of where I've arrived at. If I'm in fear, I'm going to get something fearful. If I'm in joy, I'm going to get something joyful.
Yeah.
I really believe in reincarnation. I really believe souls return and return, and that there is a it's like a barcode of a frequency that carries all the information of everything that we've ever known in all our lifetimes, that gets transmitted from lifetime to lifetime, and so it's all in us.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we are in a process of awakening to the spark of the divine, the finite spark of the divine that each of us is. And so I think it's my own self recognition. you know and I feel like it's like I don't think of God being this focal point, this
Yeah.
one point. I think of it as being this vast, like it once it came, I do believe everything started as a dot, as like all the polarities collapsed together and it was one single dot. And then what happened was that I don't know what started it, but it decided that it didn't want to be just a singular dot anymore, and it just went and what came was creation. But creation is a series of polarities, you
Yeah.
know of everything I believe in the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, and the that you're looking as above so below, as inside outside, the pendulum swing, the cause and effect, that consciousness is constantly meeting consciousness, and that meeting is constantly creating a reflection of what consciousness is creating. And so, eventually we begin to get aware of the fact that we're creating everything that we're experiencing. And we
Yeah.
begin to get very responsible about how we effort, and, how we put ourselves into the present moment, and how we create with others and create our life. So we begin to get more and more refined, and more responsible, because we realize that we're the authors, we're the God creating
Yeah.
what we're experiencing. So I feel like the universe has been unfolding and unfolding, and maybe it's been through many, 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 many cycles. I don't have access to this knowledge except for through what other people have said. But that maybe there have been many, many cycles of this collapse, and this, and but what has been going on, I believe I, as a human being, and all human beings, have a incredible birthright, and that is to be in the three-dimensional physicality with the knowledge of our finite origin, and to be able to recognize in this third dimensional reality that we are that infinite possibility manifesting in a finite experience, and to appreciate what it means to have this limitation of physicality. It's not a limitation. It is how we grow, how we learn, how we taste, feel, sense. I mean, the senses are amazing, and it's an exquisite thing to be alive and be able to see creation that we're a part of.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Your word appreciation there is really resonating with me. And there's a filmmaker, Hollis Frampton. He says narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Can you forget to die?
I feel sorry for him. I really feel he's contracted. You know, um, that's a very very contracted perspective. I used to be afraid to fly, and because I was afraid that the plane would crash and I would die. And so one of the things that I did, I have a studio, and I went into my studio, and I kept uh, going in my mind and imagining being in a plane and it crashing. And I did this over and 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 over. And it was really amazing because what came out of it was this understanding that there was a time when I wasn't here and I could feel that time. And then I was born. And there's going to be a time when I leave. And I'm going to be where I was before I was here.
Yeah.
So I had this real sense of continuity. And my fear of death left. It wasn't just the plane, my fear of dying left.
Yeah. That's good. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I believe evil's the part of the polarity of life. And I think there's a lot of evil on expressing itself on our planet right now. There's so much darkness that it's overwhelming. But I also see it as the challenge for human beings to actually claim their birthright. And I feel like this challenge is really serious. I mean, we could be taken over. We could lose our opportunity. This could happen. But I feel like it's really there to challenge us to claim who we are and to claim the light and the God self that we've been given. And so I feel like evil has a purpose, and there is evil. And the thing is, there's no dance without the polarities in the three dimensions. But how do you learn how to navigate in the third dimension and be a master in the three dimensions unless you really have these things to bounce off of and be challenged by? Well, I think we're really in a challenge of mass proportion, and I think that it's like a war that's going on, and I think the evil is feeling very threatened by the increasing awareness of who we are in so many people that's growing. And so they're coming on hard and strong. And I feel like this whole thing with AI is a real challenge. I mean, people are being seduced into thinking they can get a chip in their head and they can be part of the World Wide Web. And but they are not going to tell you that that's going to cut off your connection to God. And you'll be the beehive mind, the hive mind.
Hive mind.
and they will control you. You will not have a thought of your own, and you will not have the capacity to grow anymore.
Yeah.
And they're not telling you that. And so I think people are really going to be given a choice, and the choice will be, which side are you on?
Yeah.
Do you want to be?
Well, Ruth, I think, Ruth, they did that already when they invented TV. They don't need no chip in your head. They just made you have a TV set in your house. But really, you anticipated the next question beautifully is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Depends on how you're acknowledging them.
Yeah.
If you see through to the truth, you're not empowering them. I remember this movie that I loved. It was a Muppets thing called Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're in this dark crystal time. And what was going on? It was that the Skeksis, these evil things that were sucking the blood out of all the children, and they were, and it's interesting. The only thing that could stop them was innocence. 2 children were the only thing that could stop them. And the crystal that they had, that was their demonic power source, was dark and cracked. And the thing that happened was that somehow these children were able to get to the crystal and help it come together. And what happened was, which was their power source, and all of a sudden the crystal cleared, and these Skeksis that looked so, they were so distorted and so evil, they all of a sudden turned into these beautiful beings. That was what was underneath them. And so I feel like all there ever is energy.
Yeah.
All there is energy, and there are distortions of energy, and there are, the fallen angels, like who have gotten lost in a vortex of power over instead of power with, and they get darker and darker and darker and darker. And I think that it's important to see your enemy, but I think you have to see that there really is this distortion that will kill you and eat you if it gets a chance to do it. That is real. And also understand that this gets into something very important, because what is reality? So people think because something is ultimately non-existent or just pure light, that all the things that they manifest are not real, but that's not true. Everything is real.
Yeah.
Everything is real, and all the levels of manifestation are real. And I think they all need to be taken in. That's when you live in your head, you can abstract it and discount it and think that, well, nothing is real. You can become nihilistic, or and this is not true. We are in a 3rd dimensional reality, and in that reality there are laws, and you have to play the game by those laws. And simultaneously, you can have a perspective of 5th and 6th dimensional reality, where you understand that underneath that is energy. And this energy is very fluid, and it's not connected to dark or light. It's the center of the universe, because the center is everywhere. But in the 3rd dimensional reality, this is not what is manifesting. And so I think you have to deal with where you are, with what you're with. And simultaneously, I feel like the knowledge of these other dimensions gives you the courage to not be afraid and to not be defined by fear. So I think that this other dimensional knowledge allows you to function in the third dimension as a true spiritual warrior, and not be reactive, and not create more negativity by doing it with anger and doing it with rage, or doing it with
Yeah.
a way of making it wrong. It's just you must fight this battle and you must win.
Yeah. Amazing how you anticipated so much we're talking about, because there's this line that goes, the center without margins, this big picture view that you're laying out so well with words. And the American Indians or indigenous cultures say your enemy is your best teacher. So what I'm curious your thoughts on is Nassim Taleb says games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Then someone said, well, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And Gregory Bateson, the anthropologist, says if a criminal gets caught, does he go, oh, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, wow, I did something morally and socially wrong? So it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
Huh. No.
Yeah, I agree.
You know why? I feel like, it's interesting. I had a session with somebody yesterday, and she did this energy scan on me, and um, she just told me where I had, my energy was down, and then she found all these things wrong with me. And I was thinking to myself that that doesn't feel very healing to me.
Yeah,
Um, that I feel like people need to be healed from by affirming where their strength is,
yeah,
and working from building that strength until what is weakened or not functioning begins to be part of the strength. But when you give energy, it's like, oh, and I also think a lot of healers do this. It's like they feel powerful naming what's wrong, and it gives them power, but it doesn't give the person they're working on power.
yeah,
And so I'm very, it's you as a healer, I have to know where the down circuits are. But what I have to do is find the strength that can inside of them, that can actually relate to where their down circuits are, to help it um, to help it understand how to shift the story that is creating that pattern. But they have to do it. They have to do it from their strength, because their strength has to be affirmed and amplified.
yeah.
So,
That's Moshe Feldenkrais, exactly what he says. It's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're taught to overcome weaknesses. So tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
uh, all of my sicknesses. I had a history of being bulimic for 16 years, and it was scary. I also had a lot of body dysmorphia, and I was very almost autistic and unable to talk. And I was reading books furiously, trying to find the right things to say, because I had no idea of my own center and my own point of view. And it was when I understood finally that all of these symptoms were places that I was abandoning my body, abandoning myself. I've been taught to self-hate, taught to self-reject, um, you know, uh, that all of the things that I hated in myself were where, and I felt them as somatically ugly. that there was an ugliness inside of me. And it was when I stopped trying to heal it,
Yeah.
and I actually went inside of the feeling in my body and began to realize that this is where I had learned to self abandon. This is where I learned to reject myself. And I rewired myself back to, um, you know, it wasn't even love, it was just to be present to myself.
Nice.
Be present. And the energy began to shift, and the energy began to shift. And I began to, that sense of ugly began to be erased.
Yeah.
And I literally came back and started to be able to live in my body. I remember the first time I could eat without having a sense of trying to control my eating, and
Nice.
and I actually um, ate a meal and understood that I had an apostat, that I could just enjoy food, I could chew it and enjoy it, and really not be worried that I was going to get fat, because I hated fat so much.
Yeah.
And it was a revelation. I have this, I can just eat and enjoy food, and I have this natural cutoff that says that's enough, that lives inside of me. I was unable to feel that because every time I ate, I had so much anxiety about who I was. So that what I began to realize was that the symptoms were, it had nothing to do with the symptoms. It was a relationship with myself that
Yeah.
really needed, I needed to um, rewrite, and that I knew where this came from. I know who my mother was and my father was, and I know the level of neglect. I was not reflected at all. Nobody reflected me as a child. I was left on my own. I was a latchkey kid, and I was lost. And so these behaviors began to be, like there was no reflection of love. And I had to, through my body, through all this negativity, began to be a map of where it was that I learned to love myself.
So well put. Boy, self love, love of self. It's an amazing thing we have to be aware of. You answered that so well. How do you turn a weakness into a strength? You're so articulate. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He says, why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years, years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
It's a good question. I actually, during this COVID time, I stopped going to theater. I stopped doing all these things, and my life got very, very condensed and small. And I really began to question this appetite I had for all this entertainment.
Yeah,
I really questioned it, and I realized I didn't need it. And it
yeah,
was shocking to me. It was shocking to me that what I really needed, like Dean and I created this outdoor happy hour where we'd sit outside our front yard and have something to drink at about 5 o'clock. And as people were coming by, we'd have a conversation, and the dogs would come by, and it was like, it felt like a little village. It was in Venice, but it was like, why this is life. This is life. And so it's like having people over for a meal, cooking a meal for people. It's like telling stories around a table, um being able to sing songs together. I mean, I find this to be so fulfilling.
yeah,
fulfilling. And at the same time, I went to this flamenco concert, and I was so ecstatic to experience this dance and this music. And But it was, this stuff is real. I mean, the flamenco is real. It is soul manifest. I feel like there is something about the ritual of theater. There is something about the rituals of music. But I feel as though, we're in this, um, there's like this table full of stuff in why this stuff is being written or produced and why it's on the stage and why I go to consume it. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But there are things, I'll go listen to a Rachmaninoff piano concerto, and I'm so in awe of the composer and the pianist and the orchestra, and it's like, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So um it's interesting. I feel like there's a poverty that our culture has been creating where people are able to be every day and understand the poetry of every day, of making a meal, sharing with a friend, you know, telling a story, uh, um, getting a little dressed up and enjoying being with people. Um, this is very beautiful, and I do believe that there are artists and writers that have really um, excavated their soul, and what they're doing is it is part of what makes the human race exquisite, is their articulation and their capacity to express and write down and record what it is that they have gotten in touch with. I do believe a lot of the art that's being created is garbage because people are lost, and they're motivated by money and not by the aching of the soul to know itself. They don't know that, and it's not coming from there. So, you really have to be discriminating and
Yep.
and 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 understand. But it's hard because there's all this noise, and things are coming back online again. And whew, um, I'm glad, and I also feel like a whole big piece of me came back online that had to do with small town consciousness.
I like that. Small town. It sounds like your happy hour in front of your house that, it's all happening with our neighbors just walking by and saying hello. That's a pretty intense sort of entertainment system right there.
Yeah.
But Ruth, walk us through just briefly, like your tipping points in your callings in life. You studied psychology, and that's blossomed into being acupuncturist, therapist, and then you studied dance. Where were your tipping points for those two, where you go, oh, yeah, are you going to high school and college? You go, oh, I want to go psychology. Where's the tipping point? What caused that? And then to go to dance.
Well, dance was one of the few expressions that I had available to me. I was mute in many ways, and I didn't believe in myself. And yet I had this incredible reaction and response to music. It's like music would come on and I would fly. My whole body would just be given over to the music, and I would dance. And I was really like a fire. It just took over, fire. And the music would stop, and it was like all of a sudden, it all went like that. And I could hardly talk to people. I could hardly be in a social situation. And uh, I went to NYU. I don't know how I got through NYU. I don't know how. Uh, I was very lost, but I did. I kind of kept moving along and kept moving along. I passed my tests, and I became, I got a BA in psychology, but it was all Skinner kind of this stuff. I did do my paper on um, uh, the. I remember it was like the increase in guessing through uh, intuition, and so that there were these cards, and I tried to see if people had more capacity, if there was higher percentages when people were using their intuition to know what they were doing, and it really was, it was, people did it, but this was like way back in the 1970s, early 1970s, and but that was, so I was interested in this esoteric stuff, and but I didn't go any further in psychology, and I got married at an early age, and but I got married to a man that wound up declaring that a um, he was gay after 9 months of being married, and it was that took me on a spin, a real spin, and one of the things that I began at that point was a master's degree in dance therapy, because I felt like this was, I should do this because I had this gift. And at the same time, I hated myself because I wasn't a skinny ballerina. And I thought, I'm not a dancer because I'm not skinny and I'm not a ballerina. But I had this real somatic knowledge in me that was just innate. I mean, I um, the 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 musicians would come into classes to play, and they were warming up, and I'd be dancing to their warm up because I loved all those dissonant sounds, and it would be going through my body, and I'd be expressing them, and it would take over. I would take over, and but I was so not in this world, not in this. But I remember being in this choreography class, and the and the dancer was part of Martha Graham's troupe, and she was a great choreography teacher. I can't remember her name, but she saw me, and she saw what I was doing, and I remember they were considering whether I should still be in this program because I was so in another world, and she actually had the teacher, the administration come and watch me go into this place of dancing that I went into, which was completely free and powerful. And I had this expressive body. I mean, I could leap and I could jump and I could just do all these things. My body was just so fluid. And there was a relationship to whatever music that was happening that was phenomenal. It was all improvisation. Anyway, they recognized that I should be in the program, and I got to be in it. And I but at that point, I started to do body work on people, and it was. I hardly could stand my body, and yet I had a gift when I put my hands on people, and I was able to actually feel their emotions and help them process emotion. And the thing that was happening to me was, as I was putting my hands on people, I was finding my way into the world of being human.
Yeah.
Because I was feeling, oh my God, this is another human being, and they're like me. And after working on person after person after person after person, it began to ground me in my own body and in my own humanity. And I really developed a practice very quickly, because it was like, it was like there was a part of me that was really fragmented, and this part of me that danced and did body work was not. you
Yeah.
know
That is amazing.
it knew things and understood things, and my personality was broken, and the process of doing the body work began to help my personality sort of start to come into my body and start to heal. And uh you know uh
You know,
But
that's Ruth. That's sorry to interrupt. That's leading to this question that I'm going to ask you is what Marcel Duchamp said. He said, get your life and your job as mixed up as possible, like a DNA strand. Like most people, they have their job and then they go, don't take your job home with you. It's like your job and your life were one and the same, it sounds like. But I'm just to stay on dance for a few minutes here. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're dancing?
oh, um, you know, when I am a spirit dancer. At this point in my life, I haven't been dancing the way I used to dance. I'm very extremely internal now. But what I began to understand about my relationship to dance was that it was incredible practice in being in the present moment.
Yeah.
And there was no structure to my dance on the outside, but the structure came from this incredibly profound, precise attention I was paying to my body, my spine, the bones of my hands and feet, my scalp, my jaw. I mean, I was aware of every part of my body in time and space and the unfolding energy moving through me. And so there was this structure to what I was doing that came from that awareness. I was never just dancing off the top of my head. I was always dancing from a a a, a sense of something that was moving through my body. It was like, oh, and so there would be this emotion and feeling, and there would be waves that would arc and then would then go into something else. So there was this somatic um, uh, structure that would be there because of the reality of my biology, and I was paying attention to it. So the intention for me was embodied um, experience, but it
You're
was all what.
you're really a good listener, Ruth, and I really appreciate how articulate you are. And then to Duchamp, what he said was there's no art without an audience. When you're dancing, how much are you aware of the audience or the watcher of the dance?
You know,
Does that play a role? Does that play a role in your creative process? Because, like, you know, this song goes dancing with myself. Usually, dancing doesn't involve one person not being seen by others. But, you know, whether you're performing with the dance troupe or whatever, what role in your dancing does the watcher
that
play?
used to be a big part of the dynamic of my dance, is that I would be dancing and I'd be aware that I was being watched.
Yeah,
I would want that. I feel like, there weren't a lot of times in my life that I really felt powerful. When I was dancing,
yeah,
I was powerful. And I
yeah,
would always get people running up to me and asking me, who am I? What am I?
yeah,
Where do I come from? And I would like that. I would like that a lot, but I would always kind of dispel them. I'm just little Ruthie. I
yeah.
didn't, I didn't do this thing, but I should have. I should have given them a whole story. I'm now capable of doing that, but I would always discount myself. But where I was, who I was when I was dancing, was I was truly in a profound channeling of beauty and power and truth. And but what has happened to me in my as time has changed is that I began to feel like I had to unplug from my need to be seen by others. And I began to really make my dance, and even if I was dancing in the presence of others, to be in relationship with God as I was dancing, to be a conduit for the divine. and to feel myself in that. And so a lot of the structures of my dance have to do with feeling the space around me and realizing that I have the power to heal the space. And that in my dance, the energies of my dance have this capacity to move subtle energies. And that then what does it mean to unify, to understand the internal spaciousness within my body and the external spaciousness without my body, and to be able to be dancing in that on my own. But I have to free myself from any desire to be seen as a motivation. If I am seen, I am seen. If I am not seen, but I have to see myself, and I have to be in a relationship with some sense of the divine presence that is everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm dancing from now.
It's really beautiful, Ruth, because I'm curious your thoughts on this. Two of my film heroes, George Manupelli says, ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says, there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, dancing, more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
You know, it's both and
Yeah.
it's all of it. And I don't think that you can. It's a soup, and it's really all of this stuff is coming in simultaneously. And there's a place, like I wrote a song and I put it up on Spotify, and it was like a completed song. And I had never, I'd always been so in the stream of things that I'd never, created a product that I worked on and worked on and worked on and understood, each note of it, each little detail of it. And it was very hard work to do that. I really had a whole different, and I loved it. And I loved, it's a different part of the creative process. So I think there's this whole part that's just this, it's moving in it and finding the material and letting it come out. And then there's the shaping of it. And then there's the editing of it. And then there's the performing of it, which means in the performing of it is understanding what it is you yourself have created.
Yeah.
Because I realized that although I created something, I didn't really know it. And so there's like a whole process of digesting the wholeness of it and getting it to be a wholeness within you, so you understand it from the beginning to the end as its own entity. It's no longer from you, it lives in itself.
Yeah.
And you are completely given it its own life. You've given it birth in the world.
Yeah.
There's a place for all of it.
Yeah.
And there are different aspects of the creative process, I do believe. So I don't think it's just one thing. I think that in each level of it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I've been in the initiatory level for a long time and have a great respect for the finished product.
Beautiful. Ruth. Oh, go ahead. Ruth, can art making, dancing be egoless?
I don't think anything can be egoless in the third dimension. I don't think anything can be. But the ego can be, who does the ego serve? If it's serving for you to bloat yourself up because oh, I'm so great or whatever, or is it the point of view of like, I am here to discover myself and understand an aspect of myself that I have not yet met, and I am here to be witness to it and serve this possibility of me that is in me that will not be born unless I am here to birth it.
Yeah. Ruth, I normally get through about 40 50 questions in 90 minutes, and we've gone 90 minutes and I've got through about a third. This has been so fun. I was wondering if you consider doing a part 2 down the road, a month or two down the road, because
Sure.
yeah, because we have so much more to cover, in regards to your conscious body, energetics, and just your 3 words I love on your website about breath, voice, and movement.
Yeah.
And being an acupuncturist, there's so much your healing work. So I wanted to thank you so much. This has been an incredible learning experience for me, and you've been very generous and articulate. I thank you. And we'll schedule a part 2, and hopefully I'll schedule a part 1 with your husband too, because I've been wanting, it's been 20, I think 20, I've been interviewing people for 40 years. I think for 20 years, I've wanted to interview both of you. And it finally happened, and I'm so happy. It's really been fun. And
Well, it's a fun process. I really like your questions, and it's been fun for me to just meet the thought process that you're asking me to consider. It's really a very positive experience for me to have these questions and go, well, how would I answer that? What is the answer for me? It's not like I just have it. It's like I have to think about it for a second and let it come through. And it's good to do this. It's almost like a self assessment, of, well, who am I?
I like that. That's what I learned from people conversing with me and sharing their thoughts. And it's so generous when people are like you. And it's just been wonderful. So even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, I hope we'll keep talking forever and ever and schedule a part 2. So thank you, Ruth, so
Thank
much.
you, Jerry. You're fun. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.